What's up, everybody? Welcome to Financial Fridays here on the Dolce Diet channel. So every Friday, we talk about financial tips, facts, strategies to improve your life. The Dolce Diet is primarily focused on health and fitness, but we understand that if our finances are not right, then nothing in our lives will be right. We strive for balance. You cannot be your healthiest if you're constantly stressed out about poor finances. You can't take care of your family if your finances are not in good shape. You can't plan for a healthy, exciting future if your finances are not in shape. And if your finances aren't, in a good standing, well, can you really focus the time and money necessary to be your healthiest? Can you afford an extra couple $100 a year to get more comprehensive blood work, let's say, or even just to pay for that Peloton membership because, it makes your life easier. It's more convenient, more efficient to just have the bike in your house. So you don't have to drive to the gym a couple days per week, right? So finances are tied to our overall fitness, and we like to speak strategies. Also, I've been pretty successful in my own life in running multiple businesses. So we have quite a few businesses that we run outside of the health and fitness field, which you may know me from. We run an education-based business. We also run a real estate investment business. So we have some other things going on, and I can speak to the challenges of an entrepreneur, of a small business owner, of the, head of households, of a parent, right, of a coach, of a personal trainer, of, all the things from a sole proprietor to an LLC, an S Corp, even a C Corp. We can discuss a lot of that. But today here on Financial Fridays, we are talking about the emergency that you will face, that your family will face. And in fact, every single household will face this very same known emergency, but they will not be prepared for it, making the emergency so much worse. So much worse. So it's not the emergency itself that ruins some people's lives, ruins marriages, ruins relationships, ruins careers, ruins health, ruins everything. One simple emergency that's known. We know about this. We all know about this. It's not a surprise. It's not a surprise. Yet, the majority of American households are simply unprepared. What is this emergency? This emergency is anything that costs you, your household, more than $1,000. Wait, let me explain this. The average American household, the majority of American households, I believe it's over 60% of American households, do not have the funds available to cover a $1,000 emergency without setting off the domino effect of financial collapse. They might have $1,000 that they can pay to fix the transmission, but then they don't have money for rent, and they get dinged with a $75 late fee. So they grab some of the electric company money, they grab some of the cell phone money to try and pay the rent bill. And now they're getting dinged with late charges and surcharges and phones being shut off and then paying $40 more to get it turned back on. So by not having the financial resources available for a $1,000 emergency, this oftentimes sets off a string of events that lead to financial collapse in some people's lives, in some households, some families. This is real. You have probably gone through this at some point in your life. I've gone through it in my younger years, and having had gone through it, I realized, well, that was terrible. That was stupid. That was unnecessary to go through that. It's not like I don't know. Eventually, my water heater will go in my house. It might not be for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. It could be tomorrow. It's funny that we moved into a house that was only a few years old, 4-year-old house. We moved into Las Vegas. Year 5, 1 year of ownership for us, the water heater went. Most people would think, oh, I'm good for at least 10 years on my water heater. Well, that's a $1,700 job. The average household doesn't have that $1,000. And the point is, the brakes go on your car, the transmission. You can't quite afford it. So now you're riding dirty, like trying to use the e-brake just to stop at red lights, trying to downshift your gears to take some of the wear off the pads. I know, I've been there. I've done that. Many of you are like, damn, I do that too. Well, we don't need to be doing that anymore because we're aware of this. So this conversation is to talk about your emergency fund. Now, briefly, let's go through the financial strategy that we discussed with you. Number one, you have to have the $1,000 available. Before anything else, make sure you have $1,000 sitting in a savings account. I don't care if it's in a cookie jar, under your pillow, in the freezer. $1,000 is put somewhere that you don't touch. Ideally, once you have it, we want to move it into a savings account, not associated with a debit card, not associated with a checking account. So at your general bank, you have your checking and savings account. I would take this $1,000 and put it into that savings account or another savings account unaffiliated with your debit card. It takes 10, 15 minutes. Most of you can even do it online through your mobile banking app now. That's a way. That's an emergency. That's not you need groceries. That's a part of your budget. That's not you were going to go take your girlfriend out for a dinner because she just broke up with someone. That's not an emergency, right? You can go for a stroll in the park with a bottle of boxed wine, no problem. Emergency is a true life emergency that has a dramatic impact on your health or your impact in going through your regular life, making money to build up the emergency fund, because the emergency fund of $1,000 is just a fail-safe Band-Aid to barely get you by without ruining you, right? So then what do? We pay off all of our debts. Any debt you have, any commercial debt that you have, we don't want to be any in debt. We've done other conversations on that. Zero debt. Until you have zero debt, you're negative, right? So zero debt in all things. Zero debt. Maybe the house. We'll leave the house out of that. But cars and student loans and credit cards and medical bills. The number one cause of bankruptcy is medical bills. Most people don't have $1,000 to cover any emergency, let alone the deductible on their health insurance plan. What does that mean? That means you go to the hospital because something happens. You're stuck at the hospital for a couple days, couple weeks. You get a staph infection in your buddy's pool. Who knows what happens? And it becomes septic. And now you're stuck there with an IV drip for 2 to 4 weeks at the hospital. Well, depending on healthcare, maybe you don't have the $15,000 deductible because you have really low monthly payments, but your deductible's high. Or maybe you have a lower deductible, $3,000 or $5,000. Well, you still don't have that because you only have $1,000 plus all the time of you being out of work, right? You're missing all those paychecks. And the debt stacks up. Then all of a sudden you take out the credit card to cover the bills that are coming in because family got to eat. Now you have hospital debt, you have no incoming money from work, and you have credit card debt that's all growing, again, leading to financial collapse. What we said in the very beginning. This is a wheel. It's a cyclical wheel. There's so many little spokes inside this wheel, but it's all the same thing going in the same direction. So number one is zero debt. We have no debt. Number two is number one is we have the $1,000 emergency fund. That's the most important because your car brakes could go off right now. Number two is we work our asses to get out of debt, zero debt. We've done topics. We'll do that topic next week. Today, we're talking about specifically the emergency fund. Number three is now you start to build back up that emergency fund. And what should the emergency fund be? $1,000 is the first tier. 3 months of lifestyle expenses is the second tier. What does that mean? What are your lifestyle expenses? What is your rent, your electricity, your heat, your running water, your car insurance, your gas and oil changes, right? How much money does it cost for you to stay alive, to be warm and sheltered, and have enough resources to get back and forth to work to make more money? Those are your expenses. Netflix, is not an expense, right? Netflix is a treat. All of the stuff that we've so ingrained into our life, those are treats. Once you are getting to the point, now don't worry, you can put all that stuff back in and not even know it's there. We're going to get you there. But first, we have to build this emergency fund. So $1,000 is first step of the emergency fund. 3 months of lifestyle expenses. That's to stay alive and to have the resources necessary to get back and forth to work and make more money. Number 3, the next tier is 6 months of expenses, right? We want to have those 6 months of expenses. Why is that? Because you do get sepsis. You are sent to the hospital. You are there for multiple weeks. You have 3 months to 6 months now of all your bills are already paid. While you lay in the hospital, you can just focus on recovering, say, I'm good, family's healthy, food's on the table, all my insurance premiums are paid, taxes are paid, lights are on, mortgage debt is paid, or landlord is taken care of. I can just get healthy. How good does that feel, right? So $1,000 is if the brakes go. 3 months is in case the unforeseen black swan event happens. 6 months of lifestyle related expenses at 6 months. This now gives you a buffer that, you know what? I like where we live. I don't really like my job. I want to get a different job in a different industry that I'm really passionate about, but I got to get a few extra credentials on my resume. I got to skill up a little bit. I got to learn how to weld that new piece of metal or alloy that's out there. I need to get another certification and education so I can be a phlebotomist and work in my office, then leave the front desk of the office worker. And then now I can start running IVs and doing blood draws. That's like a $35 an hour job, by the way, a phlebotomist. And they're busy all day long. That's an easy course and certification. I digress. With 6 months of living expenses, now you have some upgradability. You have some upgradability. You know what? You can take 2 weeks off of work and take your kids on a vacation, a budgeted vacation. I know that we're going on vacation in the fall because last fall we were talking about where will we go next fall? And we built a budget for that. Where do we want to go? What do we want to see? How can we do this in the most enjoyable manner possible at the greatest cost or the least expensive way to do this? To have all the amenities that we want. Certain things we want to be pampered and we want to be glam. Other things we're like, no way, I will monkey wrench that damn thing myself easily, right? So we built out the budget. We know. So now we're saving throughout the year incrementally to have the budget, to have the thing paid for that we knew about a year before. So I say that's just in context. Once you have that 6 month emergency fund, boy, 6 month lifestyle expenses, there's a lot more flux and freedom to your life, to your choices, your ability to upgrade your income. Now, once we have 6 months of an emergency fund built that covers all of our lifestyle expenses, now we want to start growing this to also cover your deductibles on any insurance policies. Okay, what does this mean? Maybe if I get hurt, God forbid, I bust my thumb and I'm in the hospital and it wounds up, it's like a $30,000 surgery because something happened to the little tendon and whatever. And my insurance covers, I forget what mine, we have a good plan over here, but just in general, some people's insurance, they'll cover up to the first $10,000. Or they'll cover 50% of the surgery, or they'll cover the entire surgery after. I think ours is we cover like the first $3,000 or $7,000, something along those lines. That's our deductible for the out-of-pocket expenses for the entire family for the entire year. Well, I got to be able to cover that. So let's say it's $7,000. So I need that $7,000 sat in a bank account somewhere else. God forbid something happens. Bam. So 6 months of lifestyle expenses plus the deductibles on your insurance policy. Same thing with a car. Somebody bumps into your car, needs a new fender. They don't have insurance. You got to go through your insurance, maybe, or you can cash pay, whoever. Let's say you go through your insurance and it's $500, $1,500, $3,000 for the deductible. Well, you want to have that sat in a little bank account too. You want to build it up. I would put that in slightly more interest-bearing accounts. We did a Financial Friday on that a week or two, I think 2 or so weeks ago. I'll do that again later. But I want to give you the big picture, right? So we have $1,000 is step one, 3 months of living expenses, step two, 6 months of living expenses, step three, 6 months of living expenses plus your deductibles, which are now starting to grow at higher yielding money market accounts or high interest bearing accounts. Now we're starting to stack even more money in step five into 3-year, 5-year. And this is where we talked about the 4-bucket strategy. This is where last week's video on the 4-bucket strategy would kick in, as now we're starting to build buckets for the future. We have our retirement bucket at age 59 and a half, where you can start drawing from your 401ks, let's say your IRAs, or you can look to the people say the average retirement age is 65. I think you can start drawing Social Security at 62. Not that I would ever suggest that, but who knows? That's where the money becomes available. So they start thinking retirements at like 62, 65 or so years old. Well, you want to make sure that all your, I say your young man money, your young woman money, all your young person money that you've made in your 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, you've allocated some of that for the older version of you that just wants to sit on the beach and do YOLO, whatever you want to do. You want to have accrued enough money that has appreciated in time due to intelligent investments and the benefit of compounding interest, and hopefully and possibly cash flowed along the way. And maybe even still, my friends, maybe even still, some of those investments you made in your 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s are not just appreciating, but they are now cash flow positive assets that are literally paying you a salary to not work. What does that mean? Maybe you own a couple real estate, a couple single family dwellings, a couple multi-family dwellings, 2-door, 3-door, 5-door, 10-door or more. Some of you do, many of you do. That's fine. We do work with real estate investment over on our side. We do own a few doors around the country, and that kicks off cash. Now, sometimes you want to reinvest that cash to buy more pieces of property if you're growing your portfolio. But Grant Cardone, he very, very well states, I don't agree with a lot of what Grant says, but a lot of what he says is misconstrued because it's marketing and sales, not personal self-development advice. And I think I can sift through a lot of Grant's stuff and find the value in the things that he says. He does say one great thing that, man, don't rely. Now, he says effectively don't even waste money on a 401k or an IRA. Now, I would say don't only focus on your 401k and IRA. You want to diversify and look into some real estate. You own over the course of your lifetime, let's say you pick up $1 million in real estate. Couple pieces of property that have grown over time, price gone up. You bought, maybe you buy like one every 5 years, a little real estate property every 5 years, investment property over, between your 30s, your 40s and 50s. Well, now you own 6 of them. Now they're all worth $200,000 each, which is not a lot, well below the national average. We own 6 of these worth $1.2 million at a cap rate of 10. You're now making $120,000 per year. You're taking in like 10 grand a month. Now, let's say you cut that in half. You keep $5 grand for real estate improvements and a war chest, as I like to call it, just sat there on the real estate side, and you pull the other $5 grand. Now you're making $60,000 per year in salary. Well, that's better than most pension programs. Most cops that I'm friends with, they're not going to walk away after 25 years of serving, hard work. They might not even walk away with $60K, especially now that the pensions keep changing, right? I know someone who's making $100 grand right now, and her pension is only going to be about 38 grand, 40 grand after working it for a large company, a well-known company for almost 30 years. Okay, the diversification. So I went a little bit longer in that. Now I'm going to answer your questions here to go back from the emergency fund to take you from where it feels like, oh my God, I don't even have enough money to breathe. We want to get out of that. You're not effective when you feel like that. Nothing in your life is good. Your interpersonal relationships are suffering. Your health and fitness is suffering. Like your long-term outcomes are suffering. Your ability to perform cognitively in your workspace is suffering. When you have that type of money anxiety, we want to eliminate that. And these are the known knowns. What is a known known? Things that we know will happen. We know these will happen, right? You know that you will have an emergency. Now, what is the emergency specifically? Well, that is a known unknown. I know I will have an emergency. I do not know exactly what emergency that will be. And then we have the unknown unknowns. These are the black swan events that happen in the world that nobody ever saw coming. March of 2020 here in the United States. Nobody would have thought 2 years of all of that chaos. That is an unknown unknown. Although we could say it is a known unknown because we plan for unknown emergencies to happen. And that's why we go back to that $1,000 emergency fund in step 1, 3 months of lifestyle expenses in step 2, 6 months of lifestyle expenses in step 3, 6 months of lifestyle expenses, plus all the deductibles covered on your insurance policies in step 5. And then the 4-bucket strategy from the last video we did, that moves you into the next stage of financial stewardship, management, and wealth building. Hope that was helpful, my friends. And before we get into all of your questions here, I just want to remind you to jump over to the Mike Dolce Knows channel on YouTube. It is our sister channel. And bang, right here, we have a brand new video today from my interview yesterday with Wes Watson of GP Penitentiary Life. Oops, sorry, you're off the screen. My fault there. Boom. Hold on, get back to there. There you go. So let me eliminate that, remove that from the screen. Just remember, Mike Dolce Knows YouTube channel. As a quick aside, moving too slow here. Boom. Go there, check it out. All right, now let me answer your questions. What do we got here? Riak says, F.U. Dolce, what's up? Good to see you. Ben Franklin, yo, what's up, Ben? Jesse Lee, all badged up, Jesse Lee. I love it. F you, my man. React says, Coach, have you thought about going on the Dave Ramsey show? I would love to. It would be an honor. It would be a pleasure. I would enjoy. I'm a big fan of Ramsey, of his show, of his personalities, of a lot of the strategies. You know, I really like what John Deloney is doing on the show. I really enjoy George Kamel on the Ramsey show, who's also got his own, podcast. Very good on the microphone. Very, very knowledgeable also. I love what they do. I love what Christy Wright does over there, what she's doing, empowering ladies. Of course, Brandy enjoys a lot of Christy's content. And, I think they're doing a great job over there. So, yeah, that would be great. I think it would be a fun, robust conversation. Chat room, don't forget to like, comment, and share. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Like, comment, and share. I don't ask for that stuff as much as I could or should. Joe says, wise man, hard times, baby. Right? Hard times, that's what builds experience and education. Thank you. I appreciate that, Joe. Hello, Mike. Going through some new changes, hitting new highs, high levels of stress, including chronic stress, been battling severe burnout for a while, too. From personal trainer point of view, what would you do? Pray for me. All right, Wally. Well, number one, I'm with you. I am with you. You are strong. You are powerful. And Lord knows you can get through this and not just survive it. You can thrive as a result of the lessons you learned during this period of time. Now, you're dealing with a lifestyle changes. I would say you have to reach out to someone as a support system. You are not in this alone. So reach out to someone close to you, a friend, a family member, a coworker, teammate, coach. Even if it is a stranger, there are many support lines out there for us to speak with people who are well qualified to help, depending on the severity of your current issue. Now, you can reach out to your local doctor to get advice on where to reach out to. There's a lot of teleclinics and telehealth and telemedicine that is out there and available. Even John Deloney over from the Dave Ramsey Network, who we were just speaking about, has great access to telehelp, if we'll call that. Might or may not be the right word. But Wally, I will say what's worked for me is focusing on goals. Focusing on goals, because when I know, and I'll use the GPS analogy, when I know I want to drive from New York to Los Angeles, that's overwhelming. Now, if I don't have a map in front of me, if I don't have a GPS in front of me, I'm going to be a little overwhelmed. If I say, all right, Dolce, you got to get from New York to LA, I'm going to like, all right, I know I got to go west. Well, west is Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. West is also Alaska from where I am on the East Coast, technically speaking. That's a pretty wide range. Again, a little overwhelming. So, Wally, I suggest if you set a goal, a specific goal that gives you really clear action steps to build out. And I would say, like using the New York to LA analogy, if I know I want to be in LA, I'll wheel type it into my GPS and I'll know. I pull out of my driveway, I go left or right. I go 3 streets down, I make a right. I go 4 streets past that, I make a left. I pull onto the highway. I drive on the highway for 27 miles. I take exit number, whatever. Bang, bang, bang. Then a lot of the stress and anxiety for me goes away because I can then just focus on the task at hand. And I know this task brings me to the next task, which eventually will bring me systematically to the goal. I don't know if this is helpful, but I know that this is what helps me deal with stress, deal with anxiety, deal with worry when I'm dealing with issues in life. I really want to get focused. Now, maybe it is addressing your health issues. It looks like you're dealing with a few health issues. I would strongly suggest going to your doctor, your primary care physician, or any licensed medical doctor and sitting down and having this conversation and getting whatever tests are necessary for your age and your specific symptoms or complaints or ailments, and start working with your doctor the same way that we drove from New York to LA with a very specific list. I know I don't feel as great right now. I know I want to feel absolutely amazing in the near future and optimize all that is me. Well, how do I start to build forward and do that? Your doctor can work with you to build up a very good plan. I hope that was helpful. All right, guys and gals, that's it. It's a quick one. I see we still have people in the room. No further questions, I assume. I just shot through the new video. Today, we just released a new snippet of Wes Watson explaining the first day in prison. Now, Wes spent 10 years in California State Prison, which is one of the worst prison systems in the world, in the United States for sure, but in the world. I mean, outside of maybe the Gulag, let's say, in a few other places, California State Prison is people die there every single day. Murders and hits are taken out every single day. The living conditions are so challenging, so rough on the people who are inside those walls. And Wes talks about the judge hits the gavel, bang. And then what happens? Imagine that. Imagine you're sitting in court, not knowing if you're guilty, if you're not guilty, if you're walking home to see your family, or if you're taken away. Bang, guilty. And he's picked up and walked out the door. And for 10 years, he didn't have control of his life. And he explains to us in the video that I just dropped, that experience in that day, what happened, where did he go, what did he see, what did he do, who did he come in contact with, what did they feed him, what did he wear, like what was he allowed to do? Man, it was crazy stuff. So go check that out. Really excited to release the whole video on Monday. And that's another new feature we have over on the Mike Dolce Knows channel. By the way, we have lots of those short clips of diet and fitness and fat loss information that's 3 to 7 minutes, dramatically helpful, will add huge value to your life. But also we're having the interview series, which will be usually, right now we have about 3 interviews a week, and we'll be releasing these 1 to 2 at a time. And as we release these, we're going to be dropping a lot of clips like many of the other channels do. And I've been very specific with the guests on the Mike Dolce Knows show, which is what we will be calling it. Will be the Mike Dolce Knows podcast. It'll be available on iTunes, on Spotify, under its own name, because it will be different from the Mike Dolce show, right? That's our first podcast that is still out there, and we'll still keep that active with a few episodes per month. but the Mike Dolce Knows podcast will have daily uploads of these short clips on audio on Spotify and iTunes and Google Play, everywhere you listen to your audio podcast. You'll now be able to hear the Mike Dolce Knows podcast, but also these interviews will be released in long form on that outlet. Also, our YouTube channel, just for those of you who want to know. Lightning, I'm debt free. I have under 20 grand in my savings account. Should I work on these emergency funds you listed here first before working on investing? In my opinion, now this is not financial advice. Do your own research, make your own decisions. Me personally, with $20,000 in your savings account, I freaking love that. How many months of lifestyle expenses is that? Is that 3 months? Is that 6 months? Where are you? Remember, step one is $1,000. Step two is 3 months of your lifestyle. If you live in middle of nowhere, private island, USA, well, your lifestyle expenses are going to be much lower than if you're living in Beverly Hills. So let me know that, or I'll just give you some overview on that. You want to get that 3 month, that 6 month, the 6 month plus your deductibles. You want that covered. Now, that, in my opinion, should be an appreciating assets or appreciating accounts. And I'll take it a little further. You're in New York City, Lightning. I get it. How many months does that last you? 20 grand. I mean, New York City, that could be a month. I know people that are paying like 12, 15 grand a month in rent for not awesome places. Location is everything in New York. It's nuts. But all right. So let me go back to this. $1,000, you stuff it in a damn cookie jar. The first 3 months, you want it to be very near liquid, very safe. You're not really trying to make a ton of money on it. I'm not mad if you put it in a money market account. There are a few money market accounts. Right now, the interest rates are garbage. What you might want to do, and I did a video on this a few weeks ago, is we talked about putting some of that into a USDC account. That is a US dollar coin account. There is a Voyager, if you've heard of Voyager. It is a crypto app in which it acts in some ways. I don't want to call it like a bank because it's not FDIC insured, but you can put money into a USDC account, which is a US dollar coin, and Voyager will pay you a 9% annual rate of return paid monthly on the money that you have stored in your USDC account. These are digital coins tethered directly to the US dollar, dollar for dollar. So a USDC coin will always cost and be paid as the equivalent of $1 US. So you will not gain or lose money against the US dollar, but you will gain 9% rate of return on the USDC involved in. I have a high yield interest savings account. What is your high yield though? High yield right now is less than 0.5%, 0.3%. I assume it might go up a small bit because interest rates are going up. But if you're making less than 1%, you're effectively not making anything at all. I remember when like a 3% before the pandemic, 3% was like a high yield. You might be able to get a 4, maybe 5% money market account, where kind of like a high yield savings account, slightly different. That wasn't doing so bad, but you were barely beating inflation at about 5%. Now, I'm not saying put all your money into a USDC account or something that may be less traditional, but of the 3-month emergency fund, maybe you want to throw in 4 weeks, 6 weeks of that. So you have your $1,000, you have 6 weeks in liquid cash in a high yield savings account that's available. And then maybe you have the other 6 weeks, 6 weeks I meant to say previously, then the other 6 weeks is in a USDC account that you can cash out and get typically anywhere between immediately and I would say 3 business days maximum. I think Voyager is within 24 hours as long as you don't exceed withdrawal limits of 15 or 25 grand per day. So you should be okay. Celsius is another one. I know that there's a few out there, so I'm not shilling for any one. I just happen to know Voyager's APR more so than some of the others. Now, from there, because the question is where to put the money, right? And should it be investing? From there, I would put the next 3 months. So you have your 3 months of emergency fund. that 6 months or 6 weeks is in a high yield interest account. The other 6 weeks might be in a USDC account paying you 9% or so interest. That's sat there. That's relatively liquid cash. Then I might take the next 3 months worth, and I might personally put that into an S&P 500 index fund that will likely grow at anywhere between 10 to 12% interest averaged out into the future. Now, it might go down 20% this year, but if it goes down 20% this year, the odds are pretty good over the next 3 years, you will have made a profit on your money. Over the next 10 years, you will have made approximately 8 to 12% on your money. Over the next 20 years, based upon historical data, you will probably have made 10 to 12% on your money. That's kind of the way we look at it. So I say, am I going to need this money? And if so, if I put 3 months in and the market drops 10% the day after and it doesn't recover, well, I still have about 3 months in, less 10%. And that's not month 1, 2, and 3. That will be not month 4, not month 5, but that'll be a couple days or so of month 6, right? 10% of 12 weeks is a little over a week. I'd be okay with that because, long term, the money should grow. Now, that's me. Again, I'm answering for me. Lightning, because I want to give context. It's not just numbers, because if we only focused on numbers, well, we would be hedging and putting money into interest, possible higher return investment opportunities, much more speculative. We might be taking out loans from banks at a 2, 3, 4% interest rate with the assumption that we could then invest that into the stock market and make 10 or 15%, or into real estate, and we can make 7 to 12%. Well, that's very risky. That's very risky. And even the professionals lose a ton of money. So that's not what we do with our emergency fund. And 20 grand most likely and was probably somewhere between 3 to 6 months of emergency. You're in New York City, so that might be a little light for New York City. I'm sure. Yeah, no, you're spending more than 40 grand living in New York City. You're probably spending at least double that just to be there, just to breathe the air, walk the streets, do your laundry, right? So get it to that 6 months, like we said, get your deductibles paid for, and trust me, you will feel so amazing, so secure, so grounded, so settled, so confident in life. And then we can start our speculative investing. Then we can sprinkle a single-digit percentage of our liquid net worth to invest into maybe we pick up a little Bitcoin. That's 2, 3, 4, 5%, depending on your level of conviction of your liquid net worth. And you kind of see how that goes. Maybe you sprinkle a little bit. Maybe you say, you know what? Google's going through a 20-for-1 stock split. I don't see Google going down anywhere in the next 5 years. In fact, I think they're probably going to go up. You know what? I'm going to speculate. And I might drop a couple percentage and pick up a few extra shares of Google stock or Tesla. Who knows? They could fall on their face, but if it's only a couple single-digit percentage of your liquid net worth and you lose it all, all right. You still have 90% of your liquid net worth that's still there, that's still growing into intelligent assets that cash flow and appreciate. That's not speculative. Well, that would be the stock market. The stock market long-term is not speculative. When you're buying the whole stock market, when you're buying an individual stock, woo, baby. Yikes. Facebook, lost half of its value this year from all-time highs? Down 50%. Will they recover? A lot of the analysts don't believe Facebook will recover. So if you bought Facebook, wow, Facebook's on the way up, they're killing it, I'm going to buy in right towards the top. And then boom, a 50% correction that they may never come out of. Well, that's when you buy a single stock. But if you bought the S&P 500, that's all 500 of the top stocks in the United States, the top companies. Facebook drops in half. Okay. Fucking Tesla doubled. Washed. And there's 498 other companies that are all relatively doing well. So that is just a thought. Just a thought. Just a guy talking here. Do your own research, not financial advice. But that'd be my suggestion if I were talking to me. Mommy says, I agree with the S&P 500 index fund from a long-term perspective. Need to look at it from a 5-year perspective. Another option could be dividend index funds, which can mitigate some downside risk. I agree. And I look to S&P 500 index funds. All of my funds, everything I do from an investment perspective, by the way, has a 5-year run on it. I'm a long-term investor. I'm a hodler. I do very much take the Warren Buffett approach to, I only want to invest in amazing products. I'm not chasing the extra couple percentage in speculative returns. I want the tried and true. So, and there are like VOO. I want to pull that up. What is that? So VOO is the Vanguard S&P 500 index fund. And what do they pay? What have they done? So VOO, Vanguard's S&P 500 index fund, has gone up 16% in the last year, 18% in the last 3 years, 15% in the last 5 years, and 14.5% in the last 10 years. It's gone up 14.97, so 15% since 2010. So in the last 12 years, you have made an annualized return of 15% on your money. So your money has well more than doubled over that period of time, which is interesting, while also paying dividends. And it doesn't say, maybe I'm not burning it here. Price to earnings, low, 50, 30 deal. And it pays a 1.34 dividend yield on it, if I'm reading that correctly. So I agree. Don't disagree. When I do buy stocks and funds personally, I'm not really focused on the dividends, because I then look for cash flow, not from dividend funds. I look for cash flow from real estate. Now, real estate has been growing at a very similar rate to the S&P 500 from an appreciation perspective. And real estate typically pays a higher dividend, if you will, through cash flow if they are owned outright. So if you're not carrying a mortgage on it, you're not getting hit with PMI on it, and it's in a profitable or a healthy tax region with low carrying costs, then you're crushing any return you might get on a dividend. So that's just one way that, again, we look to hedge. So we're not all stocks. Stocks are good. Like, market's good for like 401ks and all that stuff and building bridge accounts, but real estate is really good too. People are always going to need a place to live, right? And if you have the right real estate in the right area that appeals to the right tenant, well, real estate is probably the best ROI, return on investment, that I can currently see. It's expensive, I bet, right? Most overall market return is comprised of dividend payouts. Well, Mommy, I think we're looking at it differently. I look at the totality of all my money working and how they play their positions instead of just dividends. So a lot of the high yielding dividend funds do not appreciate rather well, and some are highly volatile. So you might get some of that dividend payout, but you're not getting a great return, long-term return on your money. And also, you have to have a lot of money into dividend accounts to actually pay you anything worthwhile. You have to have thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars into a lot of these dividend funds in order to make a couple $1,000s out of each of them. To clarify, the stocks within the fund pay dividends, which either increases the return or softens the dip. Sorry for any confusion. Real estate does equal greater cash flow. Okay, I got it. Yep. So we agree on that. Okay. Yeah, I didn't understand either. Makes sense. All right, what else we got? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all once again for being here. I appreciate you guys. Financial Fridays every Friday around 12, 1 o'clock or so, right around lunchtime or so on Fridays. Fridays is quite of a flux day for us over here. We get a lot done, but it's a pretty crazy schedule, trying to get everything wrapped up before the weekend. So I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for the great questions. Go back and watch the beginning of this video. Also, look for the 4-bucket strategy, the video I referenced about how to build those 4 buckets to maximize your financial independence and your personal wealth. Also, make sure you jump on over to the Mike Dolce Knows channel. You check out the new video with Wes Watson of GP Penitentiary Life, in which he he describes his first day in prison, which is daunting to say the least. And look for the full episode, full interview with Wes on Monday. That'll be here on our Mike Dolce Knows YouTube channel, as well as Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, everywhere you listen to audio podcasts. You will soon to find the Mike Dolce Knows podcast. Thank you all, my friends, for being here. I really do appreciate you. And until next time, let's get it. Boom.